Okay, picking up where we left off on page 388, we just finished talking about this model for what a website would typically be. The next thing we're going to talk about is what function should your website provide? And before you can answer the question of what is it I want my website to do for me, you really need to ask the very fundamental question is, what is the need or the business goal for the website? If your business goal is, I want to increase my market share by 20%, or I want to increase my profit by 20%, or whatever it is, whatever your goal is, you need to know that before you can say, here's what my website's supposed to do for me. So let's just look at this bullet list. Okay. So people are going to come to your website to obtain information about you, your organization, obtain financial information, learning the organization's position on social issues, like, if you have a right-wing organization or a liberal organization, learning about the products and services, buying the products and services, checking the status of an order, that would be good, getting advice. In other words, I want to go there and find out, well, how am I supposed to clean this coffee maker? I'm a little confused. Registering a complaint, on social issues, providing customer testimonials or reading customer testimonials, obtaining information about warranty and services, and obtaining contact information. So, okay, I'm done with the web page. I want to talk to a human. Okay, so those are why people come to your website. So it's all about, you kind of sort of need to know your website basically has to be attractive. Has to understand the needs of the customer. If you don't know what the needs of the customer are, you're not likely to meet them. And then, of course, there may be some redefining of some existing things. For example, it could be inside your website that before you built a website, you had salesmen with commission sales. Now you put the website in, you go, well, how do I do commission? Who gets the commission? Do I split them up among my salesmen? How do I do that? So a lot of thinking has to happen. Okay, lots of good stuff there in that bullet list. The next one talks about, okay, it's time for me to establish a website. Well, the number one thing you need to do before you start building a website is you need to register your domain name. I mentioned to you before that domain names, if it's just a business, let's say I want to open a business called Joe's Plumbing, okay? I could probably just go down to my local county or state organization that registers, businesses and find out, okay, Joe's Plumbing is perfectly okay because there may be a Joe's Plumbing in some city that's 200 miles away, but no one is going to confuse the two. So it's Joe's Plumbing in my local podunk town, okay? I don't have to worry about whether somebody in some other state or some other city has the same name. When it comes to domains, they are unique in the world. There's only going to be one joesplumbing.com anywhere in the world, one of them. So yes, you need to come up with your domain name first and quick, soon. Register your domain name as soon as you're even thinking about registering domain name. Costs like $20. I'm thinking about coming up with a business. Go ahead and register the domain name now. Get it locked in. Phew. Okay. We kind of talked about hosting options. There's an awful lot of companies that can do this. I always try to tell people, unless you're like a computer person and you enjoy fiddling, don't ever try to host your own website at your own business. That's just dumb. The web hosting is so dirt cheap. It's unbelievably cheap. I have a web hosting. I have 3 websites, and my hosting company costs me, I don't know, somewhere between, about less than $20 a month to, in some cases, it's like $10 a month or $5 a month, depending on what package you buy. But, okay, say $10 a month to host my website. And my God, no way I could do that at home for $10 a month. No way. A storefront broker. These are people that kind of like, for example, I want to be an Amazon seller. Okay, so I don't really have my own website. I just contact with Amazon and say, Amazon, I want to sell my products on your website. And so I just become an Amazon retailer. And yes, Amazon takes a cut. And so I don't have anything to do. I just send my information to them and they handle it all. Okay, that's one way of doing it. Okay. So using a storefront broker or one of these other kind of organizations that where you have a hosted website and they do e-commerce for you, it's completely hands-off. I mean, the customers, for example, if I'm using the storefront broker, the customers don't contact me directly. They contact Amazon. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Now, I might get something from them, but, I don't get pestered. I don't get calls at 3 o'clock in the morning from some guys speaking a foreign language that I don't understand. Okay, so that's good stuff. The next one talks about how do I build traffic to my website. And this is big business. In fact, there's an entire entire industry out there called search engine optimization, SEO. So that's an entire industry. If you type in search engine optimization in your browser, you'll probably get a list of 100 different companies that specialize in doing just this. And the idea is they understand that if I'm on the first page of Google results, okay, then I'm likely going to be getting a lot of traffic and a lot of sales. Okay, they understand that. The problem is Google also understands this, and so they try to fix it so they can't be gamed. For example, Google has never really published their technique they use for ranking pages. Okay, people have kind of sort of figured it out. But, so search engine organization is big business. I would never, ever attempt for you to do this on your own. It's way too complex. Things change. And for example, this first bullet list talks about the meta tag. In the old days, you would have a list of key terms. So let's say I'm selling Beanie Babies. So I would say, Beanie Baby, and then I have another tag for, collectibles, another tag for, plush toys, another, several different synonyms for what Beanie Babies are. And then whenever one somebody would search, it would the more hits I had on my meta tag search, the higher up the search thing I went. That was the old days. Okay, that's practically not used. I mean, it's still being used, but the weighting factor for meta tags is way, way low. And you might think, well, why is that? Well, because you can game it. I mean, in the old days, if I was selling lawnmower parts, I could actually put lawnmower parts in my meta tag 100 times. I could put lawnmower parts, lawnmower parts, lawnmower parts over and over and over. I have 100 of these things. So when I would search for lawnmower parts, bing, mine came up to the top. Well, Google figured this out and went, no, we're not playing that game. So anything where you can directly affect the page ranking in a search engine typically is no longer used. So this whole paragraph is way, way out of date. Meta tag is not typically used as a major component. I'm not saying it's not used. I'm just saying it's not used as a major component in doing. This is why you don't ever want to do SEO on your own. Okay. The other one that you can do is called link exchange, because now the page ranking system for Google, as an example, checks to see how many people you link to and how many people link to you. Okay, if you link to 4 different websites, Google basically looks at that and goes, eh. But if you have 100 different people linking to your website, they go, must be something going on here. So yeah, your ranking goes up. And there used to be a way to game this called a link exchange, where you would participate in this little program. And basically what it says is you link to my website and I'll link to yours. So it's essentially what the link exchange was. But again, Google got smart and they went, oh, well, yeah, there's 4 links going into this website, but 3 of them are from some goofy link exchange. So once again, all the things you used to be able to do to promote your website on your own, they don't work anymore. So again, you have to hire professionals to know what they're doing. Okay, I think I beat that to death. The next thing we're going to talk about is this maintaining and improving your website, because remember, Web 2.0 is all about interactive. And it's not just a static web page out there that people just come to see and don't ever do anything with. They're going to be posting information. They're going to be talking in forums. They're going to be, and you're going to have to spend a lot of time in doing this. I used to have a forum on one of my websites. Okay, I used to have one of those forums, and people could talk And first of all, the first thing that happened is I got spammed, where somebody figured out how to just insert advertisements, for whatever, fingernails and lawnmower parts and Beanie Babies inside my forum, and so I had to fix that. And then I had, abusive people that were, using profanity and hollering, trolls, and I had to do that. And finally I got to the point where I just went, this is just not worth it. I don't want to spend that much time maintaining this stuff. I was going there every day, trying to see, what kind of insanity was next in my support forum. So I just took it out. So I don't have a support forum anymore. So bottom line is, don't think you can just build a web page and walk away. That was the takeaway from that story, believe it or not. Okay, let's continue. So they talk about personalization. Personalization is all about, I go to a website and I get exactly what I want. Now, in some websites, like those web portals where you can pick, I want the news over here in this corner, I want the weather on that corner, I want my stock ticker over here. Those are things that you set up and it remembers. So sometimes personalization is all about, I've gone in and I've told the website what I prefer. I want to see Beanie Babies, that kind of stuff. And so I get targeted Beanie Baby kind of things. The implicit personalization. Implicit is where they just look at my browsing history, what I'm doing. Essentially, they watch me and figure out what I'm doing, and then they provide me personalization based upon what I'm looking at. If I'm looking at lawnmower parts, then perhaps the next thing they're going to show me is, a fertilizer spreader, because they know I'm interested in lawnmowers. I probably care about fertilizing as well. So that's what that's all about. Okay, by the way, a good thing to think about is this personalization stuff. There's practically no way to do this without having e-commerce. I mean, there's no other scenario where you walk into a Sears store and the salesman walks up to you and says, let me direct you over to the lawnmower section. That doesn't work, does it? It only happens in e-commerce. Okay, moving right along. Next, I talk about the technology that's required to make all this thing work. So there's a figure. Okay, that's supposed to be a figure. Figure 8.13 on page 393 that basically talks about, the hardware layer, and then the software layer, and then a web service, and then the e-commerce. So let's just talk about what each one of these pieces are. So, hardware. I need hardware. Now, again, if I'm building it myself, I have to buy the hardware. If I'm just having it hosted in the cloud or having some shared hosting, I don't pay for anything other than just a single service. But beyond all that, there has to be some hardware somewhere. Okay. So, yes, how much storage capacity, how much network capacity, how much RAM, and all the rest of that stuff. So, here's some key performance indicators. I like those KPIs that talked about how do you rank kind of a websites, and you can do it in response time. How quick is it? Or success rate, meaning how often does it have any failures, or what my outages are, my mean time between failure, or whatever my guaranteed uptime is. So if I have a guaranteed uptime of 99.999, I'm probably paying a little extra for that thing. Anyway, a bit about hardware, and so I'm not going to get into the details of that. The next one talks about the web server. There are two major web serving components. So I have a piece of hardware, and then I put some web server software on top of it. And the only thing you need to know is there's a free one out there called Apache. It's very good. Awful lot of companies use it. And then usually the vendor one, like, if you're using a Microsoft server, then the Microsoft version of that thing is called IIS, Internet Information Services. So it doesn't really matter what it is. They both perform the same thing. Okay, this is a good place to stop for the 15-minute mark. We'll finish this thing off in just a few.